But tell me, Eddie, is that a rabbit in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
Roger Rabbit is the first cartoon hero in a long while that has both won our hearts, captured our imaginations. In the film, I play one of the humans who gets tangled up in Roger's crazy adventure. I can honestly tell you that working with this rabbit was an adventure in itself. Roger's one special bunny. Join me as we reveal the story behind Roger Rabbit. We will journey back to our childhoods, travel to that crazy place called Toontown, where we'll visit heroes from the past and meet some of our new Toon friends. There are secrets to be told beyond these doors.
Talking about downtown, Toontown.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Downtown Toontown, the podcast dedicated to all things Roger Rabbit, Toontown, and Disney and animation in general. I'm your host, Justin, and this is episode number 13. Well, last week on June 22nd, 2023, Who Framed Roger Rabbit celebrated its 35th anniversary. To celebrate, I actually went to Disneyland to see how Disney was going to celebrate the anniversary of this landmark film, and they did nothing. Yeah, outside of the usual artwork or pins of Jessica Rabbit, there really wasn't a whole lot Roger Rabbit stuff out there. Oh, it's so painful Disney does so little promotion for Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But thankfully the ride is still there. Roger Rabbit's cartoon spin. I was able to go on that and get some great photos. But yeah, it's disappointing. You know, I don't know if we'll ever get a Roger Rabbit 2, but you know what? We're about to get a 5th Indiana Jones movie after a decade and a half of waiting. You never know what the future may hold. Maybe we'll get, at the very least, a Roger Rabbit short or some utilization of the character, if not a Roger Rabbit 2. But, you know, that's just how it goes. Never quite give up hope. But in the meantime, we have our podcast, and I have a great guest for you today. You know, maybe arguably the biggest guest we've had on this show. But before we get to that, I'll just run down today's news.
Jeepers, another stupid newsreel. I hate the news.
Super 7 is about to release a second wave of Roger Rabbit reaction figures. Now, if you remember my coverage of the D23 Expo in 2022, the Wave 1 figures were a big hit. Roger Rabbit himself even sold out like pretty early on in the Expo. So, you know, according to the Super7.com website, both Roger and Jessica have currently sold out. Judge Doom is in very low supply, whereas the two weasels, Smarty and Stupid, are still widely available. Well, on July 7th, just a couple weeks shy of the film's 35th anniversary, they're about to release 3 new figures. They're about to release Eddie Valiant, Psycho the Weasel, and Roger Rabbit in Love. So this Roger Rabbit, unlike the first figure, has heart-shaped pupils. While I do have my fair share of collectibles, including a whole shelf dedicated to Roger Rabbit memorabilia, I do not have any of these figures, in part because room on my shelf is getting pretty limited, and also partly because I sort of draw the line at toys/action figures. I don't find myself collecting toys that much. Alas, I don't see myself getting these figures. Nonetheless, I am glad to see these figures are getting made and hope they continue selling well, because more Roger Rabbit stuff always opens up the possibility for more. So be on the lookout for these figures. I'll be sure to buy them if I ever win the lottery. But if you want to buy these figures, go to super7.com and you can pre-order your Wave 2 figures today. In other news, Disney removed a bunch of their shows and movies from Disney+. Back last month, Disney removed a bunch of movies and television shows they've created exclusively for Disney+. For reasons not quite sure, but probably largely for a tax break, as Disney has been having some financial struggles recently. Among the shows they removed include Willow, Turner and Hooch, The Mighty Ducks, Game Changers, The World According to Jeff Goldblum, among many others. The one show, though, that affects me the most and affects this show the most was my favorite original show on Disney Plus, which was Prop Culture. Prop Culture, hosted by Dan Lanigan, was by far my favorite original show on Disney Plus. It focused on prop collecting from numerous Disney movies, from Pirates of the Caribbean to the Chronicles of Narnia to The Nightmare Before Christmas to the Muppet movie. But of course, my favorite episode was episode 7, the episode dedicated to Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which included interviews from Christopher Lloyd, Kathleen Turner, Andreas Deja, even Roger Rabbit himself, Charles Fleischer. It was so cool to see this episode and to see so many props from the movie and learn where they ended up. It was such a good show. I wanted a season 2, especially an episode dedicated to Indiana Jones, which I thought would have been perfect as promotion for Dial of Destiny. But instead of doing that, Disney pulled the show all together, so you can't even see season 1. So because of Disney's wisdom, we're not even sure if we'll ever see this show again. Outside of complaining to, writing a letter to Disney or complaining on social media, I'm not sure what else to do, honestly. This is why I am a big champion of physical media and consider physical media so important, because ultimately no streaming service will ever just beat an old-fashioned hard copy. Alas, I wish the Roger Rabbit episode of Prop Culture was released on the 4K, but Roger Rabbit already got a 4K release 2 years ago, so we may have to wait until whatever format comes next until we actually see this episode of Prop Culture again. So if there's an upside to this terrible story, it's always buy and support physical media. Now, I've been hovering the D23 website, hoping to find a lot more info on the 35th anniversary screening that was promised to happen on the Disney lot. While that screening missed the anniversary date, and it doesn't appear to be happening soon on the horizon, there is thankfully going to be a screening of Who Framed Roger Rabbit at the Academy Museum in downtown LA, July 30th, 2023. You can see Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I actually bought a ticket for this and plan to be there. So if you want to say hi, look for the dude in the Roger Rabbit shirt. Pretty good chance it's me. No celebrities are currently slated to appear. You never know who's going to show up. It's Los Angeles and, there's always a chance for some surprises. But even if no celebrities do show up, it's always great to see Roger Rabbit again on the big screen. And hopefully the Academy Museum has some surprises on store. So be on the lookout for the screening of Roger Rabbit at the Academy Museum. And that should wrap up today's news.
I'm here! Roger Rabbit and the Secrets of Toontown, hosted by Joanna Cassidy!
Toon killed his brother.
What? Huh?
Dropped the piano on his head.
Right. Downtown Toontown has a very special guest. We have Dolores herself, Joanna Cassidy. Joanna, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I guess I'll just start off with, the most basic question. How did you get involved with the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
That's not so basic. That's a good one, actually. I think by that time, I actually know that by that time, Blade Runner had come out, and there was a lot of fluff going on about that. And I think there's always an element of woohoo, what a hot babe, and so I auditioned for it. I mean, to this day, I don't know how many other actresses auditioned for it. It's a really good question, and I should find out, since Bob is still alive. They're dropping like flies. And anyway, I should find out about that because it's a really interesting question. But I did audition. I went in and read with him on I guess it was the Warner Brothers lot. I just remember it was some office room, and he kind of set it up, imagining that the rabbit was there, and I knew the lines and got the job.
Well, I mean, that sounds great. I mean, you mentioned Blade Runner. I guess the film noir aspect probably helped your case, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you're in a film actually, Blade Runner was not huge at the time.
Yeah.
If you recall, it kind of bombed at the box office. It was a very misunderstood film, and I think it was too overwhelming for most people. It was just so dark, But yes, it helps to be in a film that's so classic and so revered by the critics.
Yeah, I mean, they're both, considered classics now, but to go to Roger Rabbit, what was it about like the project that like drew you the most? Was it just, you needed a job and it was another project, or did you really like animation? Did you have any interest in animation, or was it just to work with on a big budget Spielberg Zemeckis production?
Well, it was a lot of all the above that you mentioned. Of course, Spielberg, my gosh, who wouldn't want to work with Spielberg? The other part of it is that I grew up on cartoons. When I grew up in a little town in New Jersey, we went to the Saturday afternoon cartoons. That's what we saw. We saw Bugs Bunny and all those Disney characters. And that was a big part of my visual in my life. I liked the speed of it. I liked what's his name, that crazy creature that was always getting hung up. He was the one that speeded along, and then he would get
Roadrunners.
What?
The Roadrunner?
Yeah, yes. I thought he was so fabulous. I felt like him. I totally related to the Roadrunner. I just said, "Oh, that's me. That's really me." So, to my way of thinking, that just was an element of my life that I loved. And it was like, it was like the early on flip books, and I just thought that was the coolest thing.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly would agree. I mean, you did briefly mention, I guess, working with, a cartoon rabbit, I guess, who wasn't there. I know Bob Hoskins got a lot of credit for like, being seamless of getting the eye line right and, being physically there with Roger. You actually did get to work a little bit with, Roger too, who wasn't actually there. What was that the biggest challenge, acting with, a co-star that's not there? I guess, did you get to interact with Charles Fleischer in his Roger Rabbit suit on set?
Every day I got to, interact with him. It was endless. I mean, I swear to God, he was there every day before everybody in his suit and making himself well known. He was so annoying, but I mean, totally brilliant, obviously. But and Charles, to this day, I still run into him, and he's such a brilliant comedian and a piano player and an artist. He's amazing. But at the time, my level of tolerance was a little challenged because I was trying to concentrate on my lines and concentrate on my character. And I'd hear this ridiculous rabbit making noise, and he was under the camera and he was not in the place where he should have been. So his voice was being thrown, Yeah.
Yeah. So I imagine, working with him was that the biggest challenge?
No, the biggest challenge was doing as many takes as we did. because that was extraordinary. Bob and I had to come back after the film was put together and do a scene in the movie theater. And we did that. We shot half in Los Angeles and half in London. And then when we came back, we had to shoot this one scene in Oakland, California, at a gorgeous movie theater. We did it 40 times running up the stairs. I haven't seen the film in a long time. I don't even know if that's in it or not, but it was just, come on. But he was so particular, and everything had to be exactly right, which is great. I really appreciate that because I'm kind of a perfectionist myself. But on the set itself, there were so many elements that had to work together. I mean, you had puppeteers spinning plates and then coming, there was a stage. All the puppeteers were underneath. There were 4 cameras shooting different angles. You had the actors coming in. You had the element of the cartoons that were not there yet. Either Bob or generally one of the other crew members would come in and be either Roger or a weasel and stand in the place where we had to do our eye lines. And after a while, it wasn't difficult. Your eyes adjust and you actually do focus on a spot. I mean, your eyes are like a camera lens and they will go in and out until you get that spot. Do you know what I mean? To get it clear.
The eye line.
So, and it just, it just became fun. Christopher Lloyd and I had a blast together. He was a lot of fun. And Bob was great. He was great. So focused.
Yeah, that was going to be the next question, because your character is primarily the love interest of Eddie Valiant, played by Bob Hoskins. What was he like to work with?
Well, Bob was never an actor. You know that, right? I mean, he didn't start out as an actor. I think he was kind of semi-mafia sort of guy. I really don't know what he did before, but I think
like Eddie, he worked at circuses for a while.
He did the odd job. He did jobs that not most people get into. So his mind was already set up to do the extraordinary, And I know that he got his first job by going in with a friend of his to audition. He wasn't auditioning, but the friend was. And the friend wasn't going to work out for him. And he said, Bob, go in, do it. Just go in. And he got the job. Then the rest is history. I think he has I think although he never really was tested, I think he was Mensa. He was brilliant. And I know that he could memorize pages at a time. He never had an issue with lines ever.
That's really cool to hear. So yeah, when the movie came out, there was a lot of, publicity about, this amazing movie and all the technical achievements. You hosted a documentary that aired on CBS called Roger Rabbit and the Secrets of Toontown. Do you have any memories of was that an exciting moment that you're sort of like the face of the movie and you're, hosting a TV special? Like, how was that experience?
Justin, let me tell you something. If I could go back in my history and redo some of the moments that I have had in my life, some of the experiences, I think I would have an understanding. I hope it wouldn't make my head larger, but I would have a much greater depth of understanding what I really did. Because a lot of the things that I've done in my life haven't, I mean, this may sound very strange to you, but they didn't register on a level that they would register with most people. And I'm not sure why. I'm not sure whether it was something that I grew up with a mother and father that said, you know, you can't be a braggart, you can't be someone that thinks so highly of yourself. And so I don't think I really appreciated it. I mean, honestly, and the other part of it is, I think if I had been so aware then, I think I would have been terrified. I didn't, you know, I saw it. I don't have a copy of it, but I saw it and I thought, oh, wow, she's doing the job. Somehow she's getting it done. She's talking about this. And I think I would have been terrified if I had actually been so aware. Does any of this make any sense to you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, it's sort of looking back that, you know, you really sort of appreciate like some of the opportunities you get in life, it seems.
Yes, that's right. I mean, I have been granted so many opportunities. I get smacked myself around for not, you know, I mean, some people take those and they take them to heart. And they talk about them and they carry on about them and they use them in this and they use them in social media. I just, maybe I'm just a dumb blonde. I don't know.
Oh, well, you know, we certainly don't think so. We're very happy to have you on and, you know, share your stories.
I don't think I'm a dumb blonde either, trust me.
But yeah, you know, you do appear a lot at like the fan conventions and expos and things like that. We actually briefly met once. I'm curious, like, is Roger Rabbit the thing you're most recognized for? I mean, Blade Runner is arguably the more iconic and famous film. It's on that AFI list. But, you know, Roger Rabbit, you have a pretty substantial role and, you know, Disney has its big fans. So, like, what do you think is your most, what do your fans like most want to talk to you about?
Well, I was actually just at a convention and, you know, I kind of really love to do them because I just think the fans are so adorable and it's so nice to be able to connect with them. I was at the Greater Austin Comic-Con and honestly, it was split up between Blade Runner and Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead and Roger Rabbit. There were people that asked me about Ghost of Mars, people that wanted pictures from 6 Feet Under. You know, some of my more and not so obscure, but like Under Fire with Gene Hackman and Nick Nolte. I mean, there are fans that have been following me my entire career, and then there are the newer generations that are younger, and so they like that, you know, kind of fun, sort of off the wall stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds like, you know, you get recognized for all of it, which is great.
It's great. Honestly, it's really great.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to talk about Blade Runner too much. I mean, it is one of my favorite movies, although, you know, it's not something I focus a lot on. But, you know, since I guess, you know, recently, I guess Mr. Harrison Ford's in the news a lot because, you know, as of recording, there's a new Indiana Jones movie. I did want to ask one quick question, maybe your greatest acting accomplishment. How did you refrain yourself from laughing from Harrison Ford doing that ridiculous disguise voice? Excuse me, ma'am, you know, I got holes in this beautiful body. You know?
I know, wasn't that insane? I did laugh. I actually laughed so hard I had to go off the set and calm myself down. And I think I said to Ridley, "You've got to be kidding. What is going on here? What is this guy doing?" Anyway, it was perfect. I mean, you know, in the end, it was wonderful. But I don't know where that came from. Harrison and I got along great. I really adored him. He was terrific. He was terrific with me, and you know, didn't get along with everybody. We got along great.
Yeah, that's great to hear. You got, you know, along with him. So this month actually, June 22nd to be exact, was a pretty big anniversary. It was the 35th anniversary of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I wish Disney did a lot more. I mean, that's sort of the reason why I do this podcast, to try to, you know, keep the legend of Roger Rabbit alive. Do you keep in touch with anybody involved with the movie? I mean, does it, you know, live on in any significant way for you besides?
Well, yes, I just had dinner with all the animators.
Yeah, I think I saw that. Like Dave Bossert was there, I want to say. Don Hahn.
Yep, all those guys. And I love keeping in touch with everyone. It's hard because, you know, there's a lot of life we have to live, but they did something that was extraordinary, you know, never been done again. I mean, every little frame, not that they didn't do that earlier on in Disney and the animators, that's what they did, but to put it into a movie with humans and the scenes that they did, oh my gosh, there were some quite some naughty scenes in there too, which they had to take out. You know? They were trying to slide in some frames. They're like big kids, you know.
Yeah, I know. Like Betty Boop sort of has that history of animators, you know, sneaking stuff in.
Right. Yes, sneaking in a boob or something. Right. That's what they do.
Yeah, but
that's what they do.
Yeah, but so I mean, you've had this great career, but it's still going on. I mean, I guess this is the part of the show. Is there anything you would like to plug? Is there anything you're working on that you're excited about? Like, what are some other things you're up to these days?
Well, as soon as the strike is over, I'm going to go to work on a film with Guy Pearce. And
pretty big name.
Yeah. I can't mention all the actors' names because we're, you know, the deals haven't been signed on the dotted line yet, but I know his is. So we're going to do that. And I'm going to play quite a horrific character in that, but I'm sort of, you know, I'm getting ready to go in that direction and I can be quite evil. So that will be really interesting. But I did just do a cameo in Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, the new one, which they're shooting. They shot, and it's done now, with a black cast, and I'm very excited to see that. That'll be great. And I worked with the young lady who plays Rose. So that'll be good. I don't have anything else besides that. Things have, you know, been a little shut down for a while. So, but
yeah,
I think as soon as this thing is over, we're going to be jumping back into the high life again.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully that's sooner rather than later.
Yes. I'm kind of hoping the end of summer, but you know, we never know.
Yeah, I mean, so far the year is halfway through. So going back to, I guess, Roger Rabbit, I mean, we sort of went over on the legacy a little bit, but I mean, are there any, you know, special memories or things you want to share before we like wrap up, like, you know, that you want to give a shout out to or say, or?
Well, I think that I just think I've been so fortunate to work with some of the best people ever. I mean, there was Bob Zemeckis being cool as a cucumber, directing, overseeing this humongous cast and crew. And at the same time, he'd be called up, you have to talk to LA now, Bob. Because they're looking at the dailies and they're going, what the hell are you doing? So Memories. I guess when we were shooting we shot at Pinewood Studios in London, and it was in the dead of winter, and it was freezing. I mean, freezing. In between takes, I was like wrapped with blankets, and thank God Bob Hoskins ran hot, because sometimes I'd snag him and hold on to him because it was just so cold on the set. It was freezing cold, but we laughed and we carried on. Like I said, I just adored Christopher Lloyd. Bob was so busy with his character and working and trying to get everything accomplished. We had a hard time grabbing moments.
Yeah.
I did my own makeup in the movie.
Really?
Yep.
Were they? I guess all the money was going on the animation. Did they?
Well, it wasn't so much that, because we had the head of the department. I just wanted to do my own. I actually hired an old Hollywood makeup man, and I wish I could remember his name, because he did Joan Crawford and Ava Gardner. He did all of them. And he was amazing. He taught me that 40s makeup, eyebrows, lips, contour, because in the day, they made those faces. They didn't look like that. They created them.
It's like that Sunset Boulevard line.
Still wonderful, isn't it? And no dialogue. We didn't need dialogue. We had faces. There just aren't any faces like that anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I can remember working with Nick Nolte and Under Fire, and Nick would come in the morning, and his makeup man, Eddie, would chisel him out. It was fascinating to watch us. It's sort of like what some of the influencers do now, really heavy makeup. I'm talking like, oh my gosh. And you just wondered how they would look on camera, but of course they look stunning, just stunning. But I loved that whole process, and I loved doing that. And then I had someone else doing my hair, and that it all worked out. We just had a lot of fun. And I love that look, that 40s look. Oh my gosh, the big shoulders and tiny waist, and it was a great look.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a few minutes left, so I'm curious about this. Do you have anything either from the set or related to a movie? I mean, like in terms of a prop or a set piece, even just a poster. Do you have any cool collectible? I mean, some people are into that more than others, but I remember that cool show Prop Culture. They did a whole episode of Roger Rabbit. That was interesting. I found that interesting. Do you have anything cool or memorable that you could share?
I do. I did have a lot more, but I've let them go over the years, and I do have several pieces from Blade Runner. I didn't get any costumes from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. They wouldn't let me have them, but they were gorgeous. They were gorgeous. I really wanted those clothes. When they're custom made for you, I mean, down to the nitty gritty, you think, well, what are you going to do with them? But of course, now they're in museums.
Yeah, they're somewhere in the Disney archives. They should have invited you on that show, Prop Culture. I don't know why.
Yeah.
What's
it called? Prop Culture?
Yeah, I mean, they did recently take it off, but yeah, it was a documentary. Oh. Like Christopher Lloyd got to reunite with his Judge Doom costume.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah.
As a fan, does it have your smell?
No comment.
Yeah, so if you're, able to
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah, if you're able to access that in any way, it's definitely worth a watch.
I will try it. See, this is what I'm saying. This is me in my life. I sort of do things and then I move on. I don't hold on to a lot of these things, and I guess I better start doing it.
Yeah, well,
it's not too late.
We're very glad to have you on the show. I feel like that's sort of our responsibility as the fans to try to, keep the history alive. And
I appreciate that, because if it weren't for you, it would all go away. There's so much to replace it. But I'm glad you honor and respect some of the films that have been made that will never be made again, that are unique and one of a kind. And again, your interest in this is very, very appreciated, Justin.
Well, we thank you very much for joining on the show, Joanna.
Okay, great. Thanks. My pleasure.
And today's show is finally coming to an end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to follow Downtown Toontown on social media, go to the Instagram page at @downtown_Toontown, as well as Downtown Toonpod on Twitter. And if you're feeling generous, you can donate to the show under the new Patreon I created for the Downtown Toontown. Just look up Downtown Toontown on Patreon, and any support helps. It will increase, if you like what you hear, donating will very much increase the likelihood of this show continuing. And also be sure to follow the YouTube page, which is JJ Smith Media. I actually do have another show in the pipeline scheduled for next week. It's a great jam-packed show. I can't wait for all of you to listen. But until then, though, I would hope you enjoy your week, and I will see you downtown.
Toontown is an unofficial podcast. It is in no way affiliated with the Walt Disney Company. The opinions expressed on this podcast are mine and mine alone and do not reflect any official member of the Walt Disney Company or the Walt Disney Company itself.